What's up, fellas? Urban Red Pill, the channel. You know what time it is. Men first. This cafe is for men only. Men get in free. Men have free drinks until whenever the fuck they leave. Doesn't even matter. Relax, kick your feet up, and let's do it. I want to talk about the reason, and I'm going to give three examples on why I think that it is fine that MGTOW and red pill philosophy does not apply to most men. One of the examples that I'm going to give is the ratio, the dating ratio between men and women. Now, as it stands right now, that's where all men participating. There is a 2 women to every 1 guy. That's with 100% male participation in the United States. Now, most of us do know the state of men in this country. We understand what's going on as far as homelessness, incarceration, and a plethora of other things. I made videos on a lot of these disturbances with men before. Now, just with that alone, I'm not going to stay on that long any more longer, but you already know where I'm going. The ratio is off. So at the end of the day, who gives a shit? If the women don't have 100% male participation, no shit doesn't go anywhere anyways. Now, the main point that I want to make is in industries, there is a word, it's called disruption. Disruption, I'll give you an example. Way back in the day, where the form of transportation for most humans at the time was horses and carriages. Now, the disruption was when the gas combustion chamber car came into the society, and it pretty much disrupted the whole industry. Another disruption, speaking of cars as of right now, is the electric car. Now, if you look at Tesla, Tesla represents a disruption, even though they're not the first electric car, but they're the first electric car that brought a lot of attention to electric cars, like where industries pretty much have to take this seriously. If you think about it, that analogy goes hand in hand with MGTOW, with red pill philosophy. See, when the early electric cars came into the market, no one didn't really take them seriously. They had a lot of bells and whistles to work out, and the aesthetics was pretty much off. Like, if you look at a first generation Leaf, you know, you just wouldn't see yourself spending that money for that car. Now, even to this day, the electric car is still very small market, a niche market when it comes to automobiles. Now, what happened is, even though it's a niche market, you can obviously see that that technology is a disruption. The future is electric cars. Now, they're getting a lot of pushback from, a lot of people who do not want to evolve with technological advances. They're getting a lot of pushback to the point where you even have Tesla electronic stations getting blocked or, vandalized because of people who are anti-electric cars. But the thinking person knows the future is electric cars, even though as we stand right now, that industry is not dominant. I believe Volvo already mentioned after 2020, they're not even making any more gas cars. So that's letting you know that the real progressive thinkers are understanding that this is the future. So that's just an example of a disruption. And they had a study on this where they said you only need maybe 15, 20, 25, I'm paraphrasing here, 15, 20, maybe 25% of people on board with an idea or an ideology or social construct, and that could pretty much create a disruption for whatever industry that is. So if you look at MGTOW, that's why I've always been fine with MGTOW not being for the populace, is because I understand MGTOW, red pill philosophy, it is what you call to me a disruption. It's just not now it is disrupting industries. As you can see, we see a lot of places that are going out of business. Every kiss begins with K's. You know what time it is. All those jewelry departments are going out of business. Why? Is because men are no longer willing to play the game anymore. Most of their money was made off of guys buying bracelets and engagement and wedding rings. Because that disruption has happened, they can no longer profiteer off of men anymore. If you guys understand, get where I'm going with this. Another example of a disruption where the populace does not have to create what the deciding factor is we could go no further than the electorate in the United States. If we look at the Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump election, it is clear to see that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Remember, popular vote. Donald Trump won the Electoral College. Now, if you think of that in MGTOW terms, MGTOW represents the Electoral College. That's what I'm saying. It is fine that, red pill thinking men, red pill philosophy is not for the masses. Because at the end of the day, we represent a disruption. If you have red pill minded men sprinkled around the country, sprinkled in different communities, sprinkled in different pockets of society, those create disruptions. And if you take a look and you look at the way this philosophy is treated, the way that it's getting pushed back, really ask yourself this. Do you really believe that Google, YouTube would really give a damn about men talking about certain philosophies, certain this, certain that, if they did not believe that not only were these philosophies true, not only were these philosophies valid, but these philosophies could possibly create a disruption. And remember, they cannot profiteer off a disruption with men as far as them walking off the plantation. How are these companies going to make money? They know men own and possess the majority of the wealth. I don't give a fuck what these cunts say. Oh, I make six figures. Listen, women don't control wealth. Men do. Men build wealth. Women spend the wealth. They need men connected to women to funnel this cash out into their businesses, into their coffers. This is the reason why MGTOW gets a lot of pushback from big tech organizations, big companies, because if you think about it like this, how can they profiteer off of men claiming that they don't want to be involved in the dating market anymore? Men claiming that they do not want to accept the social norms, the social brainwashing that these platforms do try to create. Now, if you could create a channel right now on how to be a better boyfriend, how to practice chivalry, how to make women feel this or that, no one will bother you. You can have 20 million views. No one will bother you. But the moment you create a channel and it gets some traction, as if I've gotten a strike already in less than a month, and you create some traction, why do they have such a big problem with that? It's because they know what we talk about. They understand it does not have to be popular. It does not have to be for the populace. They understand that this philosophy has a possibility, and to me it's not even possible. It will create a disruption. And that's what they can't have. They cannot afford to have 15, 20, 30% of men checking out of the social norms, checking out of the dating market, deciding, I got another example. In the area where I stay, they had 2 or 3, they were stores, but they were scattered out in maybe a 20, 30 mile radius of each other. And they would sell tuxedos, they would sell wedding dresses. Of course, these are the type of businesses that women like to open. Even though, a guy could plainly see, well, marriage is dying. It doesn't make no sense to get into that business. But these type businesses here, these are pretty much females because they believe that a marriage is alive and thriving. All 3 of those stores are out of business. All 3 of them. One, the only reason that it held on long was because the cycle of, it was around June, July, that was around high school graduation where a lot of people came to rent tuxes. And of course, women bought, casual dresses or whatever to wear to the proms. But besides that, that is another dead industry. All of this, why? Because men are no longer playing the fucking game. So when you hear guys and you hear people say, well, hey, MGTOW is not never going to be popular. Blue pills are always going to represent the majority. That is fine. But what you're not understanding is this. MGTOW represents a disruption. Every red pill guy is a disruptor to society. Every time you decide that you checked out of the married game, depending on your age, you've let pretty much two, possibly three, depending on your demographics, of females where their dream of marriage is shattered, all because you decided that you don't want to play the game anymore. I'll even one up that. One thing I love reading the older MGTOW comments because I love reading their stories. And the reason why I always get a chuckle out of their stories and the reason why I admire their stories is this. They were coming up in a time where there were no social media. Everything was blue. And what I mean, I'm not talking about just the fucking sky. I'm talking about everything was blue. Blue pills ran amok everywhere in a society when they came up. There was nothing, no information there to tell them, but somehow, some way, they realized the environment that they were in, they persevered through it, and they came out the other side with a couple scratches, but undamaged. And the main thing that these guys represent is some of these guys are not only one generation, two generations, three generations, or sometimes four. They've ruined almost 4 generations of snowflake, worthless bitches that were relying on being a parasite on these men. And these men have given them no opportunity. We're talking 4 freaking generations. 20s, nothing. 30s, nothing. 40s, nothing. 50s, nothing. And when you sit and you watch these women complaining like in their 40s and 50s, sometimes 60s, that they can't find them in, they're sitting there with cats, they're sitting there cussing out the lawn guy because she just needs somebody to fuss at. What you have to think is you have to think those older red pill guys. Those guys were supposed to be paired up with these angry cunts. And they had the mental fortitude to say, you know what, fuck that, I'm not playing this game. That's without YouTube and that's without the internet. So that's a point that I wanted to make, guys, to let you see that it is fine that this philosophy is not for the masses. It's fine that this philosophy is not for the populace. What is fine is I know in my inside, in my soul, that this movement does represent enough to create a disruption. MGTOW is a disruption. Urban Red Pill, aka Iceman. Ice these bitches out, man. Take care.